Oh, God. Oh, God is good. I keep telling y'all, street got no God. God do not look out for street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. I just was waiting.
Boozy Badazz might be staring down the darkest chapter of his life, a brutal 10-year stretch in his federal gun case. And the second that news lit up the blogs, guess who was the first to pop out and dance on his name? Charleston White.
Things this case has stopped me from doing, traveling all across the world, making.
The man didn't waste a second. He hopped on live like it was his own birthday party, grinning ear to ear, clowning Boozy without mercy, and saying he always knew this day was coming.
Charleston White was celebrating you taking the plea deal. I think he even said he hopes you die in jail and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard.
The biggest thing right now was that you actually accepted a plea deal for your federal gun case.
Yeah.
Charleston didn't just stop there either. He bragged about waiting years for this exact moment, and even pushed the disrespect further, claiming he wouldn't care one bit if Boozy never walked free again. That's cold. But here's where the story flips.
Picked it up.
Now, it was a state case. The feds came, picked it up. They had a ruling in the Supreme Court that went in my favor, and the case got dropped by the judge. The case got dropped.
Just weeks ago, Boozy admitted he accepted a plea deal because the non-stop legal fight had drained him. He told fans straight up that putting his trust in God was the only way he could keep moving. This wasn't just a legal move. It was a cry of exhaustion, because the case had already been thrown out once before.
I'm gonna go to trial with it from the dump, actually, but I feel like this the right move for me. You know, I trust in God, Black.
Prosecutors came back in 2024 with a vengeance, slapped him with a re-indictment, and suddenly the walls started closing in. Now the stakes couldn't be higher. A decade behind bars is a real possibility, and while Boozy's posting emotional messages about faith and survival, Charleston White is online popping champagne like it's New Year's Eve. This isn't just a legal battle anymore. It's turned into a public spectacle, a war of humiliation.
On the jail! Oh, God! Oh, God is good. I keep telling y'all, street got no God. God do not look out for street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. He going to jail. All that newborn baby. Boosie won't get to see that newborn baby till that baby be walking and talking. Boosie going to jail!
For years, Boozy has been fighting off case after case, but this gun charge, this might be the one that finally pins him in a corner. Because when you're a felon caught with a firearm, the odds are stacked against you. And even legends in the game can fall hard when the system has its eyes locked in.
Brought you up because you were attacking Kanye because of the...
Nah, that was, it's Kanye with it just happened. Been coming at me. He been coming at me. It's just, you know, I can't respond to those people, bro. Like, that's a danger to what I got going on. Can't take no risk of losing this behind, you know.
At first, it looked like Boozy had finally caught a break when the case was tossed out in 2023. Fans cheered, thinking the nightmare was finished, that maybe the rapper could finally breathe again and get back to his family and his music without the constant shadow of court dates. But the feds weren't letting him off that easy. In 2024, they came storming right back with a re-indictment on the exact same charge, basically saying, "Nice try, but we're not done with you yet." That's when the pressure broke him.
I ain't really got no opinion on him because, you know, my opinion can send me to prison. So I ain't really, you know, I ain't really got no opinion on him. You know, once you go to threaten people's kids, talking about you out of line. So, you know, I ain't the one gonna do all that. I ain't gonna do all that.
Boozy cracked and took the plea deal, something he admitted himself. On X, he wrote, "I thought this case was over and I was going to get on with my life, but God don't make mistakes and I'm tired of fighting." It was the rawest we'd seen him in years. That wasn't just another legal twist. It was the moment everything Boozy had been dodging finally came crashing down on his head. When the news broke, fans swarmed his mentions with support, prayers, and free Boozy posts. But you could see it in his words. He was broken. This wasn't he the Boozy who would light up the internet, trolling his enemies, or clapping back at critics with fire and venom. This was a man who sounded defeated, drained of energy, running on pure faith, and forcing himself to accept whatever destiny the courts had lined up for him. It was resignation wrapped in heartbreak, the kind of moment where a fighter finally admits the gloves might have to come off.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, hey, you know, certain people you can't really express opinions on, and he one of those. You can't express how you feel because you may end up in prison. And I ain't getting tricked off the streets.
Anybody who followed Boozy's story from the jump knows this ain't his first time in the fire. The man has been dodging bullets, both literally in the streets of Baton Rouge and legally in courtrooms, since his earliest days. From deadly beefs to murder trials to life-threatening health scares, Boozy's journey has been nothing but survival mode. He slipped through the cracks before, beat impossible odds, and walked away when most thought he was finished. But this time, it feels different. 10 years ain't no slap on the wrist.
White folk, Boozy, you done got too much. You done let these niggas play you too mother. This internet book dumb and it. Say what Lil Tutti gonna do now? What Lil Tutti say? Listen, Vlad TV. Vlad post everybody going to jail but Boozy. Somebody tag Vlad TV.
Barely 3 months later, Boozy.
That a decade, an entire chapter gone, and you could feel the weight pressing through every single word he posted. His fans were flooding him with love and prayers, trying to keep his spirit alive. But while his supporters were lifting him up, Charleston White was tearing him down in real time. Charleston jumped on live looking like he'd been waiting for this day his whole life, grinning ear to ear, bragging like he'd called this downfall from the very beginning. He flat out said he never believed Boozy would beat the case, and now that a prison stretch is staring him in the face, Charleston couldn't resist rubbing salt in the wound. He even went so far as to say he hopes Boozy dies in jail. That's a shocking statement even for Charleston. But let us be real. This is the same man who built an entire brand on being hip-hop's loudest troll, feeding off pain, chaos, and controversy like it's his daily bread.
I can't respond to that because once I see a man go up there and say he gonna put you in prison, even if you threaten him or say something about him and he's got facts to where he's put people in prison, I can't take a chance of getting involved with that.
Well, listen, I don't want anything to happen.
He's like, I'm a call.
What made it cut even deeper this time, though, is how fast he flipped Boozy's heartbreak into a comedy routine. Before Boozy could even process the reality of a decade-long sentence, Charleston had already turned it into his own personal circus. And at this point, his obsession with Boozy doesn't look like regular trolling. It feels personal, like he's enjoying the downfall way too much.
In jail, waiting for the FBI to send me the right kind of number, because I'm finna make a report on your mother people. And you make the man call your name specifically. The promoter specifically says your mother ain't Lil Boosie. He implemented you and implicated you. Finna go to jail, back to jail. You gonna be on your knees, but them knees gonna be.
Every time Boozy's name hits the headlines for legal trouble, Charleston White pops up within hours, like he is sitting in the shadows just waiting to pounce. It's gotten so predictable that fans are straight up asking, why does Charleston hate Boozy this much? Because this doesn't feel like random trolling anymore. This beef is deeper, darker, and it's been simmering for years. The roots go all the way back to late 2022. Remember when Kanye West had the entire world buzzing after stepping out in that infamous White Lives Matter shirt?
Street kid. I'm not a criminal. I'm a kid who was raised to tell the truth. When my mama come in and say, son, what happened? Mama, I didn't do that. I got a paid for a lawyer. I got two lawyers, Carl Mallory and Louis Stearns. Louis Stearns became Judge Stearns, Judge Louis Stearns, but I had two paid for lawyers. My mama is a well, ain't no street. Hell yeah, I'm gonna tell on you. I've been telling since I was a little bit.
The move set the culture on fire, and Boozy wasn't about to stay quiet. He spoke up, calling disrespectful to black people, and honestly, most of the public sided with him. At that moment, Boozy was saying what a lot of folks were thinking. But Charleston White? He wasn't having it. Instead of letting Boozy's words ride, Charleston jumped online and went full scorched earth, blasting him just for daring to check Kanye.
And the hammer back on the gun.
And then what happened?
And that's when the feud truly spiraled. Charleston didn't just keep it between him and Boozy either. He crossed the line that most men in the streets know you don't cross, dragging the kids into it. He started clowning Boozy's son Tutti and even T.I.'s son King Harris, calling them ugly, saying they couldn't fight, and even predicting they'd end up in jail. That was the moment the trolling turned into obsession. This wasn't just about disagreements anymore. Charleston was taking aim at family, turning Boozy's bloodline into part of his act. And from there, the beef went from smoke to a full-on wildfire. That was the moment everybody realized Charleston White wasn't just another internet loudmouth looking for clout. He was willing to dive way below the belt, dragging kids into grown men's beef just to inflict the deepest wounds possible. What shocked folks even more was how calm Boozy stayed through it all. Fans expected him to explode, but instead, he played it cool. In an interview with Tony the Closer, Boozy laid it out plain. Speaking his mind too much could easily land him right back behind bars, especially when kids were being dragged into the middle of this mess. And that told you everything. It wasn't fear keeping Boozy quiet, it was strategy. He knew Charleston was the kind of dude who wanted him to lose control, to lash out recklessly, to say something that could violate parole or give the feds a reason to clamp down harder. So on the surface, Boozy stayed composed. He bit his tongue and kept it low-key. But make no mistake, the tension was boiling underneath. And by early 2023, this feud had reached a dangerous new level. Charleston was already clowning T.I. during that infamous paperwork party mess, stirring the pot as usual. And that's when Boozy's son, Tutti finally decided enough was enough. He clapped back at Charleston, calling him old, messy, and even telling him to go die. It was raw, unfiltered, and it proved just how deep the disrespect had cut. But of course, Charleston being Charleston, he didn't just clap back. No. He cranked it up 10 times louder, turning the volume on this feud all the way up and making it clear he wasn't letting Boozy or his family breathe for even a second. Charleston White turned the disrespect up to a level nobody thought possible. He went live and straight up said, "I hope your daddy dies from that diabetes. I hope they don't send him the insulin for a whole month." Who even talks like that? This wasn't trolling anymore. It was pure venom. He was openly wishing death on Boozy just to cut his son Tutti to the core. And then came the twist that had everybody's jaws on the floor. Not long after Tutti actually got picked up on a gun charge, Charleston popped out instantly, bragging that he was the one behind it. He claimed he called the police, sent in photos, and even tipped off the Department of Public Safety. Then, to make it even wilder, he doubled down, saying law enforcement was already watching Tutti because, in his words, Boozy was a 6-time convicted murderer who used kids to do his dirty work. That was the breaking point. The internet realized this beef had spilled way past trolling. It was now creating real-life damage, messing with freedom and futures. And just when you thought it couldn't get uglier, it did. Barely 3 months later, Boozy himself got arrested again in San Diego, right outside a courthouse he'd just walked out of. And of course, Charleston didn't waste a second. He hopped on Instagram Live, laughing like it was a comedy show, saying it was all God's plan. He even compared Boozy to Daniel in the lion's den, acting like prison wasn't punishment, but some divine test that Boozy was destined to fail. This wasn't beef anymore. It was obsession, and Charleston was treating every downfall in Boozy's life like his own personal victory parade. Charleston White took Boozy's San Diego arrest and flipped it into a straight-up sermon. He was on live preaching like Boozy's pain was some kind of divine punishment, turning a man's downfall into church theatrics. Fans watching didn't even know whether he was being serious or just trolling for laughs. But either way, it came off colder than ice. It wasn't funny, it wasn't clever, it was cruel. Months later, Boozy finally addressed it on Vlad TV. For the first time, he admitted he didn't even want Vlad to be interviewing Charleston anymore, after all the disgusting comments Charleston made about his son Tutti Raw. Boozy made it crystal clear. He wasn't scared of Charleston, not even a little. But his focus wasn't on revenge. It was on staying free. His exact words showed it. He knew Charleston was the kind of man who wanted to bait him into saying or doing something reckless, the type of move that could cost him his freedom. Still, no matter how calm Boozy tried to play it, you could tell Charleston was living rent-free in his head. That's how far the obsession had gone. By early 2024, the beef had spilled even deeper into internet culture. Twitch star Aiden Ross tried to set up a live stream with Boozy, but Boozy backed off, not wanting Charleston's name dragged into the mix yet again. But Aiden wasn't about to let that slide. He flipped the narrative completely, going online and claiming he turned Boozy down out of loyalty to Charleston White. That was the moment this feud mutated into something even stranger. It wasn't just a war between Boozy and Charleston anymore. Now the internet's biggest streamers were picking sides, dragging this beef into a whole new arena. That lie from Aiden Ross spiraled across the internet like wildfire until DJ Vlad himself stepped in. Vlad dragged Aiden for siding with Charleston White, reminding everybody this is the same man who once praised Hitler and denied the Holocaust. It was a brutal check, but it also showed the size of Charleston's shadow. Even young streamers were tossing his name around like clout currency, proof that his trolling had reached a whole new generation of audiences far beyond hip-hop. And still, Charleston wasn't slowing down. By March, he was back online launching another attack, this time claiming Boozy had allegedly told promoters not to book him for shows. Instead of shrugging it off, Charleston spun it into a dangerous rant, bragging that he'd already been in contact with the feds and was more than ready to get Boozy jammed up again over what he called threats. But he didn't stop there. He went extra low, dragging Boozy's health into the mix. He laughed about Boozy's diabetes, saying he'd be bleeding out soon, and swore up and down that he was going to have Boozy locked up through the FBI. Once again, he had zero proof, zero receipts. But it didn't matter. Charleston said it loud, said it often, and in today's internet, that was enough to stick. Meanwhile, Boozy himself admitted the psychological toll was getting heavier. He revealed that guys already locked up were calling him from inside, clowning and asking when he was going to join them. Picture that. Boozy's already carrying the weight of a looming 10-year federal stretch, and now even inmates behind bars are laughing like his fate is sealed before he's even touched the yard. Charleston wasn't just clowning him anymore. He was turning Boozy's downfall into a running joke, making sure the humiliation hit every corner of the culture. That's straight insult to injury, and Charleston knows exactly what he's doing. But here is another angle people can stop whispering about. Boozy didn't even want to risk taking this case to trial. He went straight for the plea deal. And honestly, can you blame him? Just imagine if, by some wild twist, Charleston White had actually managed to pop up inside that courtroom. You already know how that would have gone. Charleston would have turned the entire place into a circus, pointing fingers, cracking jokes, running his mouth to the jury, and then sprinting straight to the blogs the second he stepped outside. The headlines would rewritten themselves. Charleston White testifies against Boozy, a nightmare scenario that could wrecked Boozy's case before it even started. And truth be told, it's not far-fetched at all. Charleston has a long, messy history of snitching, and he's never been shy about it. According to reports, when Charleston was just 14 years old, he got caught up in a robbery with a group of other teens. But during that robbery, one of them, Antoine Doolittle, ended up shooting and killing a man named Michael Levy. When it came time for court, Charleston took the stand and testified against him, and in street culture, that's the ultimate sin. Doesn't it matter that he was just a kid, people still drag him for turning on someone from his own crew. That label of snitch has followed him ever since. But here's the twist. Charleston doesn't run from it. He leans into it like a badge. He's defended himself over and over saying, "I was young. I was in court. I told the truth." That's not snitching. That's survival. In his own words, he's not ashamed of what he did. He wears it proudly, spinning it as proof that he's built different. So when he's online clowning Boozy and talking about calling the feds, it isn't just trolling. He's showing the world that he'll play dirty, he'll cooperate, and he'll weaponize the system if it keeps his name hot. Here's the wildest part of it all. Footage from Charleston. This old juvenile case recently resurfaced online, and the internet lit up like a firestorm. Suddenly, thousands of people were calling him out as the biggest hypocrite in the game. How can you preach street code one day, then brag about testifying the next? That was the question blowing up comment sections everywhere. And to make it worse, clips started circulating showing exactly what folks were talking about. But instead of ducking the smoke, Charleston doubled down. He proudly declared he never lived by any so-called street code and doesn't care who mad about it. That's insane, because this is the same man who constantly calls other rappers rats, mocking them for cooperating, all while openly admitting he snitched himself. Stack all of that together, and suddenly Boozy-ass decision to skip trial and grab that plea deal, doesn't it look so crazy? The last thing he wanted was the risk of a courtroom turning into a Charleston White circus. Because if Charleston even had a chance to slide in, you already know how it would have played out. Him pointing fingers, cracking jokes in front of the jury, then rushing outside to fire up an Instagram live and brag, "Yep, I helped put Boozy away." That's not some far-fetched fantasy. That's exactly how Charleston moves, bragging about calling the cops, setting people up, and flexing his teenage testimony like it's a medal. For him, humiliation is a weapon, and that's why he's celebrating so hard right now. To Charleston, this ain't just another rapper caught up in a case. This is karma. Proof that everything he's been screaming, mocking, and trolling about Boozy has finally hit home. When you stack it all together, the beef that sparked in 2022, Charleston clowning Tutti raw, the arrests, the non-stop online humiliation, and the resurfaced snitching stories, it almost feels like Charleston White has been waiting, maybe even praying, for this exact moment. Now Boozy is staring at a plea deal that could lock him down for 10 years, and Charleston is out here celebrating like he already won the war. Right now, Boozy's still technically free, but the weight of that deal hangs over him like a storm cloud. A full decade behind bars is no small stretch, and the thought of him being cut off from his family, his music, and his freedom hits hard. Meanwhile, Charleston White is clowning non-stop, acting like the gavel has already dropped. The streets are divided, some folks laughing right along with him, others bracing for the hammer they know could fall at any second. And here is the part that chills the most. If Charleston is this loud while Boozy-ass still walking free, just imagine the circus he'll unleash if sentencing day comes. You can picture it already. Charleston hopping on live, cracking jokes, bragging that he called it from day one, maybe even popping champagne like it's his personal Super Bowl. This saga is far from over, and the next chapter could be the loudest one yet. So lock in, because whatever happens next is going to shake the culture. If you don't want to miss it, make sure you smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe right now, because the story of Boozy versus Charleston White is only getting messier from here.